So start off with, could you say your name and occupation?
Yeah, so my name's Tony Vaughan. I'm the MP for Folkestone and Hyde.
Okay, thank you. Um, here's that. How do you believe that green spaces impact our day-to-day lives?
Well, green spaces are really important because I know this as a person who lives in a family with a dog and kids, and needing to expend a lot of energy to be able to focus on my work. Yeah, I need to run a few days a week, and I do that outdoors. I'm lucky to live somewhere that's right next to lots of green fields, and I know that when I've done that, I feel a lot better, and kind of gives me energy to do the job that I need to do. And I know that for many people, they feel the same. It's vital that we make sure that wherever we put communities, or wherever communities are, that everyone has access to green spaces. Is completely essential for people's mental health, and it's just something we've got to make sure everyone can have access to.
Well, Um, how do you believe that we can help green spaces?
Well, there's lots of things that need to happen. At the kind of national level, governments need to make sure that when we build new communities, there's going to be a whole new development in Ottapol, for example, in our area in a few years. And it's really important that the way that communities are constructed, that the physicality of communities allows everyone to have access to green spaces, both to kind of for their mental health, but also to allow association, and allow people to younger people to hang out together, or to different members of the community to meet each other and to enjoy their free time. And I think it's quite easy, and we've seen a lot of bad examples where that hasn't happened, and the developers have just been allowed to sort of completely pack in an area with housing and not had to think about how the new development should actually be a building of a community rather than just a series of houses. And so there's work that needs to happen to make sure that happens, so that developments everywhere can reflect that principle. Locally, we've got a lot of different things that are going on. I know that the district councillors has had recent grants for green projects, both in terms of rewilding, trying to encourage nature to become much more vibrant and present than it already is, and in other projects to sort of create green spaces where there weren't there already. And it's one of those things where it's perhaps not prioritized in public policy in the way that it ought to. But we've got to get to a point where if we don't ensure that happens, then it's quite easy to see a lot of indirect adverse effects with just been saying about adverse effects of people's mental health, and just being out of touch with the natural world around us, that we ultimately have to respect for us and for our future generations.
How do you believe green spaces impact our mental health?
Yeah, I sort of said at the start that it's sometimes difficult for people to know it's important, particularly younger people, to know it's important until you've actually gone out there and been in a green space. It kind of de-stresses you. It takes you out of your, away from your screen, or away from work, or a situation that's perhaps put a strain on you, to really making you feel relaxed. And in this day and age, where perhaps we're much more tied to things on a computer or on our phones that are exciting or interesting to look at, we don't necessarily have the awareness that there reaches a point when actually we need to stop doing that. We need to do something that is outside of us, which is in our community, which is in get sun on our skin, and have vitamin D that we need for our body to grow, and to have the reactions that need to happen in your body for you to be healthy. And particularly at this kind of time of year, where there's a kind of motivation to stick with your screen and stay inside, is even more important that we say to people, get outside. I've got a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I know exactly that problem. You can have screen use that goes a bit too far, and it's not obvious to them that it's important to just stop and go outside. And we know that you go outside and walk with a dog and walk through the forest, and everyone feels a lot more relaxed and a lot better. And I think that it's not fair that not everyone has access to that. I mean, it might be that they're right in the middle of the town and it takes a car, or it takes having to take a bus, which costs money to go to the forest or to a green space. And so that's one of those things that really it's up to politicians and those in public policy to make sure that particularly in urban areas, that we have people do have access to the means to go to green spaces, to enjoy and to get the benefit of those green spaces, so that it can help everyone's mental health.
I think I have follow-up questions. That was
Did you have any sort of questions arising from what I've said, or other things you thought you wondered? Yeah.
um going back to when you mentioned about councillors doing things for green spaces. Have you done anything for green spaces?
Well, I mean, I've tried to do what I can. I mean, it's important for me that we make sure that where there is new building, there is support for communities to be designed in a way that works. I mean, I've been working with different communities with housing problems all over the constituency to allow them to access the support they need to make their immediate local areas looked after and maintained and paid for. And there's a lot of work I've been doing around that. I've also been working to try to get the Otterpool development moving forward, both with national government but with the local council, because that will be, I think, a really good example of how a thoughtfully designed new town or new community can bring green spaces to its residents, so that we have an environmentally conscious and sustainable development, which is not just good for the environment, or doesn't create such adverse impacts that housing has had traditionally, but also is a nice place to live, where people do have parks and do have green spaces to walk in, so that it is a positive experience for people, and does respect the environment that it's located in.
Okay. So on the lines of sustainability and what the Otterpool project as well, how do you think we could help biodiversity within Otterpool with being built?
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, if you look at the site at the moment, I mean, I'm not sure there is a huge amount of biodiversity. I mean, you look at it at the moment, and there's a load of grass, and you might think, well, it's green, isn't that good? Isn't that good for nature? But actually, biodiversity comes in lots of different shapes and sizes, and where there isn't already that biodiversity, it's important. You have to take specific steps to actually enable it to happen, which means having a whole regime to encourage the proliferation of species that are there already, to bring them in, to nurture them, to encourage them to grow. And I think the idea is that once that development has come into being, that there are going to be positive steps that are taken to increase the wildlife and the biodiversity in that area, so that it ends up better than it was before.
Okay. Could you walk us through what has happened with the Otterpool project so far?
Mhm. Well, as I understand it, there have been many years of preparatory work done by the district council to get it to a point where there is a proposal that can be taken forward. I mean, in the last year or so, there have been some sort of, and there has been engagement by the district council with central government, but it's really since July last year that government has sort of really taken a grasp of this. And and also my colleague Sojan Joseph in Ashford have been pushing quite hard for some progress on this, because it really had required the kind of political will and funding will to actually take it to the next stage. And as I understand it, there are some very positive things that are happening. There's a collaboration between the District Council and Homes England, which is the agency that's responsible for ensuring that developments like Otterbourne get built. And I think it's a fantastic project. It's been worked on over many years by administrations of different kinds. But I think we're in a situation now where we have a good proposal. I think it's going to be exciting for the local area, and it will benefit everyone. There will be short-term impacts on people who already live in that area. There's no doubt about that. But I think in the long term, this is absolutely the right thing for Folkestone and Hyde, because also we have a lot of young people who can't find housing. There's a lot of problems accessing accommodation, which we shouldn't be facing. We need more housing, particularly for younger people, so that it's not just affordable in the technical sense, which is a sort of a certain proportion of market rate, but it genuinely it is possible for younger people to access those houses, because that is one of the most fundamental unfairnesses, I think, of our society at the moment, that it is so hard for younger people to step out and to stand on their own 2 feet, have their own accommodation, be able to work and also pay the bills and pay the rent. It's fundamental for young people to be able to move forward in life. So I think it's going to be an exciting project.
When coming up with construction projects and housing, are there any protocols you have to follow regarding nature and the green spaces and focusing around Kent?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rules which relate to that. There's a lot of environmental protections which apply to any development, and those will have to be complied with it, but by developers in any case. But they are there to make sure that you can't just kind of concrete over the countryside wholesale. At the same time, I think in a situation where, as I say, there's a massive lack of housing for younger people and older people, sort of 1-2 bedroom accommodation, for example. We've got to do something. Something has to change, because we can't have a situation where you have a whole section of society that's just entirely priced out of reasonable, cost-effective or affordable accommodation. But I think we can have both. We can have environmental protection at the same time as increasing housing supply, and that's what the Labour government's trying to achieve.